Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening to Pace with Grace podcast. My name is Diana, and I am your host. Today, I have a special guest, and she will let's welcome our guest, and please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Sandy, and I am very happy to be here, excited to be able to share some knowledge on this area that is really close to my heart. Today, we're going to be talking about parenting with ADHD, having children that have ADHD, and just the process of it day by day is the struggles and some tools that we can actually use to be able to understand our children better.
Okay, you mentioned ADHD. Can you explain to me what that is?
Yes, ADHD is short for Attention Deficit Hyperness Disorder. There is an imbalance in pretty much in their brain where they can't focus in school, they can't stay still, they talk a lot. Their brain is wired differently. So it's not like being on a spectrum, it's just that because of the way the brain is wired, everything is faster for them. Like to them, it's like everything they're on the go at all times.
Why are you so familiar with this topic?
The reason why I'm so familiar with it is because my youngest daughter has a form of ADHD.
And when did you notice?
We noticed it in first grade.
What was the concern?
The concerns were there was some impulsivity in class, distractibility. She was always distracted, didn't know where she was, the last page or anything. She constantly had to move. She constantly had to touch. At times, she wouldn't hear what you were saying because her thoughts were on something else at that time. So while we were still processing one thing and trying to get her to understand one step, just that thought alone.
I have a son that also has been diagnosed with attention deficit hyper disorder. He was always squirming around, fidgety. He couldn't stay still. He never seemed to listen. He would daze out. He always had trouble playing quietly, which got him in trouble a lot. He's constantly talking or laughing out loud. He would speak aggressively with the no, leave me alone. He would interrupt the teachers. He's easily distracted. He doesn't watch television. It's not soothing enough for him. He does enjoy playing with the iPad Pro, the Nintendo Switch, and his laptop. For some reason, this keeps his focus and he's able to last a long period of time. And I think it's so much of the hand-eye coordination and also the process of thoughts that he has to exercise to be able to accomplish the goal, whether it's a game or is ABC mouse, anything that he has to think. It keeps him focused, but he never finishes a task. Does this all sound familiar?
Yes. Actually, with my daughter, I can't give her a task and just leave her alone. The task is, I need you to go clean up A, B, and C. Just the thought that she has to go in there and clean up, it's almost like there's no skill there of knowing this is what I have to do first, this is what I have to do second. I literally have to write it down on paper, put it into a checklist form, things at a time. When she's done with 3 things, then we can move on to the next 3 things. And that way she feels accomplished. And even then, for her, it's almost a struggle, like just seeing the list. Yes, it's helpful.
Yes.
And she's looking at all 3 of them. She's not, this is the first square, I'm going to work on this first. So it's a constant reminder, okay, so what is the first thing on our list? It's the second thing. Did we finish the first one? Did you check it off? That is something actually that they work with her occupational therapist.
Oh, that's interesting that you mentioned occupational therapist. My son was getting it however, they took him off occupational therapy, but he continued with the physical therapy and the speech therapy. Now I see where he lacks with penmanship that he does need occupational therapy.
Yes.
How long has your daughter been getting that service?
She did it for a year. Actually, a full year was the last year. She moved up really quickly. It really helped that she's never, with the eye-hand coordination, she's actually been really good at. Her thing was more of just following steps. be able to comprehend what she is told, following it,
Right.
making sure that she doesn't that she stays on track.
It's interesting because with my son, as I mentioned, he has trouble completing tasks. Now, you mentioned that when you give her a checklist, it's 3 things she needs to do, and she gets confused because she's looking at all 3, not looking at 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Now, my son, I can't put 3 things to do. I have to tell him 1 thing at a time. For instance, if I tell him, okay, Joshua, it's time for you to go take a shower, brush your teeth, go to the room and get dressed and get in bed. All he hears is like blah, blah. And as a parent, I get upset. I'm not perfect. To me, he's disobeying, forgetting he has ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
When I give him too much instruction, it becomes frustrating for him. He doesn't know what to do first. When I tell him things that he needs to do, I'll say, Joshua, it's time to go in the shower. After the shower, Joshua, it's time to brush your teeth. After brushing his teeth, Joshua, it's time to go to your room. After he gets in the room, Joshua, put on your clothes. After he puts on his clothes, Joshua, say good night, get in bed. When I do it like that, 1 step at a time, I notice that the process is much easier. It's not something that you normally would do. I tend to forget. When I catch myself by seeing the way he behaved, then I remember, oh, I did it again. Can you relate to that?
Yes, absolutely. I can very much relate to that. It is frustrating because I do forget, like you said before, like we're not perfect. It is hard because I'm just expecting so much from her at times.
Mm-hmm.
That it's once I see that meltdown, that she goes into meltdown city, then I'm like, oh, I did it again.
Yes.
It's like I forgot. I was like 1 step at a time. But thankfully, with a lot of just working on those skills, like you said, doing 1 thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Working, just focusing, even if there's a list, just redirecting their attention just to that 1 thing first.
We got to also look at it this way. When there's so much chores that I have to do, I have so many tasks to do one day, whether it's shopping, doing the wash, cleaning the house, going to work, doing remote learning with my son, I kind of will get anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just imagine a child with ADHD. So many things they need to do, especially with the remote learning now. How can they balance it? But you as a parent, how does that make you feel when you see your child struggling?
It's really heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I feel like my hands are tied and I can't do anything to help, because once she's in that mood and she just has completely lost it, the only thing I could do is give her the space that she needs.
Right.
Find a quiet space, take a deep breath, and just leave her alone.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's frustrating, and I know at times I just want to tell her, stop crying.
Mm-hmm.
One example that I can give about that is there had been a situation where she wasn't doing she wasn't doing well in something, and she misunderstood it, and the more she tried and she just wasn't getting it, she lost it, and she came and laid down with me, and the biggest meltdown ever. And I mean, as much as I tried to talk, the worse it got.
Right.
Or I tried to calm her, the worse it got. If I try to touch her, forget it. The best thing I could do was just let her write it out.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was done, just comfort her and knowing it's okay. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to cry, And if you need to talk, I'm here. If you don't know what to say, it's okay too. If you just need space, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. That was a good technique that you did with her. It's difficult sometimes too, because you just want to understand them. And you can't, because they don't understand what's going on inside their brain. They just know, for example, I've learned that a child with ADHD, when there's so many noise around them or too many instruction, that it sounds like you in the center of a huge crowd and everyone is speaking to you at the same time, but you cannot distinguish what anybody's saying. You just hearing the voices, the noise. Let's say, for instance, you're in a subway platform, right? And you're surrounded of people. They all speak, and the train is passing by. You have people in the background playing music, other people in the background screaming, and it's all one noise. When they go through that, they have that meltdown that you mentioned. My son, personally, he flips out. He throws himself on the floor, he kicks, and these are things that I want to like stop him from doing to himself. This happened one time in an after school program, and it really disturbed me because he was being bothered, he was being bullied. They weren't sharing toys with him. They didn't want to be friends with him. And he took that personally. And it affected him so bad that when I went to pick him up, he was throwing the basketball, screaming. He was sweating. He was crying. He was red. It was the worst experience. So with that, I didn't know how to calm him down. And I felt myself getting anxious. And I felt myself getting angry, not at him, but wondering what happened that he was acting this way. And it caught me because I guess he read my face and he started screaming more. I guess he reacted with my reaction. And that was something that I kept with me forever because I didn't want that to happen again. Afterwards, I had to sit on the floor with him while he was kicking and everything. And I told him, baby, I am here. I will protect you. I will protect you. I will protect you. That's what I kept saying. And then finally he asked, will you protect me? I go, yes. And then I asked him, what happened, baby? And he told me what happened. Of course, I spoke to the director and the after school program and explained what's going on. And he came out of the program. He was smiling. He was talking like nothing ever happened. You know, not only it becomes overwhelming for us, but we do become lonely, right?
Yes.
My loneliness comes from people not understanding my son. Where does your loneliness come from?
It comes from that area too. Not knowing how to explain it to people in a way that their behavior doesn't seem like, oh, they're just being disobedient, oh, they're just bratty, or oh, you know, if they just would spank them, then it would be all over. If one smack, it'll be all over. Or if they would just punish them, you know, or if they would just discipline them at home. It's not that we don't. It's not that, it's just different, because you can't take them in a meltdown and beat the child, because how are you going to, you're just adding to the anger.
Right. I agree.
What I've been able to do with your son, with Josh, like I've been blessed. I've known Josh since he was a baby, and I love him to pieces. And I mean, the times that I've watched him, he is smart. You know, the same thing with my Sarah. Like, it's just they have a different. I like to put it this way. And now that Sarah's older, I like for her. It's like you were all created differently, and she was wired differently, created differently. These children, one of the reasons why Josh can actually stay focused as long as he can on the tablet, these are one of the skills, the gifts that they have, is that they can super focus, they can hyper focus.
Yes.
And I find that with my daughter, she can hyper focus on things that, you know, she likes to draw, she likes to paint, she likes to play piano, she likes to create things. Now, these are things that usually, you know, like I stay in awe because these are skills. And the same thing with Josh. Josh is very skilled with, you know, with his games, with his tablet. Like, he knows, I mean, the times that I have to spend time with him, like, he just knows what to do, you know, at his age. And it's just amazing. It really is.
Yes, it is. And you mentioned about art. You know, your daughter does do beautiful work. I've seen it. And for those that are listening, yes, Sandy and myself are very good friends. We're more like sisters, but we are sisters in Christ. And I've known her children since they were very little, and she has known mine as well. So this is why it's very dear to us, because we are able to help each other through our roughest time with our children, because we do understand. When I mentioned before about misunderstanding, I noticed that you have mentioned, people always say, oh, all they need is a spanking and they'll stop acting like that. Discipline them, they'll stop acting like that. That's not the answer with children with ADHD. You're adding more coal to the fire. But it upsets me because they're defining our children as disobedient. And no matter we explain to them what they have, they automatically assume we're making excuses for our children. You know, and it's a very difficult and sensitive topic, because if anyone out there is experiencing the same thing, or is embarrassed to go to a restaurant with their child, or to go shopping, or even to go to a family or friend's house, because you know your child's going to act up eventually. Don't be embarrassed, because all you're doing is teaching your child to be embarrassed of who they are. We're not defining our children with ADHD. We are explaining that our children lives with ADHD. It is not who they are, it is what they have. And us as parents, we need to learn. We need to educate ourselves about their type of thinking, like you said, the way their brain is wired. We cannot be too comfortable and expect them to become who we want them to be. God created them this way, in a certain way, not for our understanding, but for His glory. Because these children, no matter with the difficulty they have to accomplish tasks, to learn, staying still, they're amazing singers, they're amazing artists. There are so many that are amazing athletes. They could accomplish so much. My son loves to take pictures, and I've been flabbergasted by the pictures that he has taken with my cell phone. Mind you, it's only a Samsung S10, and it's a phone. But
it's
he
his
takes
perspective.
Huh?
Sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
It's his perspective in life. So it's like those pictures show what he sees, and that's why I love it so much when you show them to me, because it makes who he is.
Exactly.
You know, we can have a piece of that world to see his eyes. You know, and that's how I feel about my daughter's drawings.
Right.
Because they're so detailed, they're so exact, and every dot, like every dot has a dot that has a form, has a figure, like every single thing. And it's like, man, like you focus down to the last little bit. It could be the smallest thing, and she's always been like that.
Yes, I do remember that. Always. And she's self-taught. That's another thing, and my son is self-taught too. Like now he's 7. No, I'm sorry, he's gonna be 7. He's only 6. Forgive me. I don't even know my son's age. He looks like he's 10. He can pass for a 10-year-old. But no, he's 6. But he's appreciating his appearance now. And he's only 6 years old. So mind you, he takes pictures, selfies, posing with his father's shades, with his mohawk. He does all this stuff. And it is the cutest thing. But then when I look at these pictures, he looks so grown up, so mature, compared to what I see in front of me. And he expresses facial expression in the camera, and he likes it, So he's identifying himself as an individual that is really handsome. And it's beautiful because, in reality, we need to look at the world through children's eyes, because they're so innocent. Like him and Sarah, my son and Sarah, they get together and they play so good. They know when they get in on each other's nerves. And, there are times they separate on their own. There are times we have to separate them. But then right back to each other. It's like they love each other, And it's beautiful to see that they're capable of having a relationship, that they're capable to understand when they need their own time out, And he does need medication. But before I put him on medication, I was using natural remedies. And the natural remedies worked wonderful too. The only thing, his body got adjusted to it. Became so immune. We did the change of the diets. We did no food dye. He went to behavior therapy, a therapist, a psychiatrist. He went to a developmental pediatrician. We did it all for him. And through the whole process, we learned, I say we because me and my husband, we learned about our son. And we learned to love our son. We learned to understand our son. And we learned to appreciate who our son is. With that said, we need to learn to have patience.
Yes.
And moms out there, dads out there, be patient. I know it's easier said than done, but it is possible. As I said before, we need to grow up too. We need to look through their eyes and understand the way the brain is altered. Do research. Seek out there. Find out anything you can about ADHD. It's important because this is about your child. Now, I don't know if you noticed, we talked about two genders, Cindy's daughter and my son. And they have so much similarity. But what happens if we don't take care of it now and they are the teenage, adolescent, where they're going through their changes? What's going to happen then? You have to prepare yourself now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to say about that, Cindy?
Yes, actually, I wanted to add that there are several types of ADHD. Mm-hmm. So there is an ADHD, which has hyperness. Then there's ADD. And there are several types. My daughter has the type that she has ADD. Mm-hmm. So she might not have, like Josh has ADHD. Okay. She has this attention deficit disorder. So for her, she is in constant la la land. Mm-hmm. Like she could be doing, if it's not something that grasps her attention, it doesn't filter in. Mm-hmm. So for her, that there's several. For girls tend to get that type of ADHD, mm-hmm. where it's either, there are situations where you have cases where they do have the hyperness, mm-hmm. but some aren't. Like mostly from what I understand, sometimes sadly a lot of girls struggle with ADD, but are never diagnosed because it's not noticed.
Right.
Noticed because it's a girl thing. You're sitting there, you're daydreaming. Mm-hmm. If I wouldn't have taken the steps to find out earlier, mm-hmm. I think we wouldn't be talking right now.
Right.
So outside, it was hard because all of the noises outside distracted, and we're all walking. Where is my daughter? My daughter's behind us. Because she's not looking at everything. It's just like her brain is absorbing everything, the cars, the noise, the people, everything. So she, comforts herself by she starts singing to herself. She starts talking to herself because it's just kind of like, she'll stop playing with her fingers. And then she'll slow down as she's walking, and we're in a rush. And so we have to kind of jump in and say, hey, okay, you got to speed up, or let's hold hands. Let's go together. So yeah.
No, that's true. I know, like with my son, sometimes he jets out. We be outside, he runs in front of me, and I get paranoid because he doesn't have awareness of his surroundings sometimes. For instance, going to school, he will run down the block, and I will be screaming his name out to stop so he doesn't cross the street. And he will get so close, and I'm running behind him, and then he finally stops because he sees that I'm worried. So what did I have to do? I had to play a game with Joshua every morning. When they fix the sidewalk, they have to mark it, right? Mm-hmm. So with like a color spray. So we always see blue, yellow, and white. Mm-hmm. So blue was 1 point, yellow was 3 points, and white was 1 point. So it's 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Mm-hmm. So whoever steps on those colors and calculate the amount that they collected, like a game in his iPad Pro, but it kept him focused on the ground, looking for the color sprays that were on the sidewalk to step on it so he could count, and then we would do math and add it. So we would do it all the way down each block to when we got to the school. And of course he won. The reason I let him win is because if I won, he would have a meltdown. He's not good at losing at all. On the way back home, then I will win. And he will have his meltdown, but it's okay. Because he has to also learn he cannot always win.
Absolutely.
But I'd rather him have the meltdown going home because I can take care of him versus him having a meltdown in school and I don't know what's going on. I mean, I've been blessed, and my son has been blessed with wonderful teachers, and I love them. Kindergarten teacher, pre-K teacher, first grade teacher, I love them. He's been so blessed, and they work with me. That's another thing, parents, and I cannot express this any more than what I'm going to right now. You need to communicate with their teachers because you will know if the teacher is right for your child. It's not the other way around. Your child is not supposed to be the right student for the teacher. The teacher is supposed to be the right teacher for your student. Okay.
Yes.
And make sure if you do not agree with what they're saying, you have to debate them. You are your child's voice.
Yes.
Okay. Do not let anyone tell you what's best for your child. This is your child. You know what's best. Okay? Now, you will know what's best for your child once you educate yourself what they are going through. There's a lot of redirecting technique through behavior therapy. It is, I highly recommend it. It worked wonderful for me, my son, and my husband. We learned how to redirect his frustration into a positive outlook. Learn how to communicate with him. Before I used to speak Joshua, da 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 da. No, now I say, Joshua, this is what we are going to do today. It sounds weird to do in that monotone, but it works. But yes, we're coming to a close now. Is there any information or resource that you can share with the listeners that maybe they could do their research now?
Yes, actually, just back to what you were saying about your techniques. Mm-hmm. There are 2 techniques that I actually have used with her, and it's one of them is HALT, HALT. HALT is for hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So when your child is not sure what is going on, why they're feeling the way, if you have this up, or even you just go through it with them together. Are you hungry? That makes them think, am I hungry? No, I'm not hungry. Are you angry about something? Did something happen in school? Did it happen at home? Did you have a fight with a friend? And then that makes them think. Same thing with lonely. Am I lonely? Why am I lonely? Or am I tired? Do I need a nap? Do I need to have some quiet time? That's one thing that I've been doing with her, apart from the just breathing, taking a minute to breathe, taking a minute to have some time to herself, just making sure she calms down. The other one for safety, because that's really cool. You were saying about what you do with Josh with the spray paint on the floor. Right. What I used to use, now it's better. When she was younger, I used to use ABC, always be careful. So whenever we came across a street or a driveway, mostly driveways, because when we would walk to her school, and so with running, she wouldn't really pay attention to the driveways that were coming up. So we came up with ABC. So anytime Dad would see her getting too close, ABC, okay, Mom, always be careful, okay. And then she would look. And that trained her to go, okay, well, I can't cross the, and there are times that now she tells it back to me. She's like, Mom, remember ABC, you always have to be careful. But yeah, so apart from that, I do have 2 websites. One of them is understood.org.
Okay.
That one is great because not only does it give you the tools, but it shows you, because you get interactively, if you put in your child's needs, it'll show you. Like if it's attention, it'll show you. It'll play a game with you, and it will make you the child, so that you can see through their eyes, like what really happens, even getting through instruction. And the other one is Attitude, ADDITUDE, mag.com. And with that one, a lot of information on ADHD and ADD, on coping with it, on different exercises for adults and for children as well.
Okay, that's wonderful. I thank you so much, Sandy, for this time. And I think we cover a lot. I would love to have you again.
Thank you.
And definitely keep talking about having children with ADHD and dealing with it during social distancing. Okay?
Yes.
So listeners, tune in to part 2. Thank you for listening to Pace with Grace podcast. I want to thank Sandy for participating in this podcast. Thank you once again. And my name is Diana, your host. God bless.